Hello and welcome to WeLearn. Session 2, Cross-Culture and Global Management, the Meaning and Dimensions of Culture. Topic will be cover nature of culture, characteristics of culture, how culture affect managerial approaches, model of culture, value in a culture, Hostroff culture dimension, the global project. The nature of a culture. As we were studying about the cross culture environment, so yes, whether one is conducting the business in the foreign country, one has to deal with the foreign culture and language. Every aspect of a business is affected by cross culture, particularly human resource management. Culture influence both the thinking and the behavior of individual, which in turn influence the managing of institutions, business and norms. So in that case, we need to understand about that why cross cultures and global management require to understand the culture, because culture actually affects the thinking process, the understanding process of the people. So in that terms, yes, many people think it refers to the way we dress, we behave with others, or it means refined behavior or sophistication in living, or it is way we speak. So in that terms, the overall what we were, what we are, what we behave, what we dressed, what we speak is all affected by our culture. So we can say that there is indeed a lot of confusion in a way we use and understand the word culture, but we understand that it is required to understand the clear meaning of the cultural part. So culture in the simple word means the way of a life of a group of a people. It is shared by all or almost all members of the social group. It implies to most of the people most of the time, never to all the people all the time. So in that sense, this is the basic concept of the cultural part. So culture basically define acquired the knowledge that people use to interpret the experiences and generate the social behavior. This knowledge forms value, create the attitude and influence the behavior. In that terms, yes, किस तरीके की नॉलेज एक्वायर की जाती है, किस तरीके की इंटरप्रिटेशंस होते हैं, एक्सपीरियंसेस होते हैं पर्सन के, उससे एक कल्चर बनता है. इन दैट टर्म्स यस, कल्चर से ही हमारी कुछ वैल्यूज़ क्रिएट होती हैं, कल्चर से ही हमारे कुछ एटीट्यूड क्रिएट होते हैं, एंड यस एट द सेम टाइम they were more influence behaviors were there. Then yes, the characteristics of a culture, various kind of characteristics comes into a picture. First is language. Yes, culture, all every culture have a different kind of language, how the person is going to speak, how the person is going to achieve, or how they will express their words. That comes into the language part. Aesthetics was one of the concept. We can say that this include the art, the drama, the folk, the music, the dress, the common to the culture. It is a great value to study this expressions, because through one can often gain the invaluable insight into the foreign culture. So in that terms कि एक culture के क्या ethics हैं, क्या उसके आर्ट, क्या ड्रामास, क्या म्यूजिक, क्या डांस, मतलब क्या फोक एरियाज है उसका. नॉर्म्स आर फर्दर वी कैन से दैट it is the kind of the rules, the regulations, or we can say that the expected behavior required from that particular culture, कि किस तरीके का behavior expected है. So that comes into the norms part. And then learning is more how that people interpret or learn the things. चीज़ों को किस तरीके से समझा जाता है और learn किया जाता है, that comes into the learning part. Then values are more related to the cultural values. Culture, we can say that how much culture was giving the value to the society, to the environment, and to the rules and regulations of that particular area. Social collectiveness, yes, it is what the social factors comes together, interacts with each other. That comes into the social collectiveness. Then cultural integrations. Cultural integrations are mainly towards bringing out all the cultural activities, bringing out all the cultural scenarios together and maintain the proper characteristics of the culture. Then the symbolic, yes, what the symbol एक one culture state, culture हमेशा किसी ना किसी तरीके की symbolic issues एक symbolic factor show करता है. So in that terms, what symbolic area that culture shows? Then adaptive. How adaptive the culture characteristic is? Culture कितना ज़्यादा adaptive है, वो एक नई चीज़ों को, नए adoptions को कितनी जल्दी adapt करता है. That is one of the concept in the adaptability. Then how culture affect the managerial approaches? एक कल्चर कैसे मैनेजरियल अप्रोचेस को इफेक्ट कर सकता है? दिस इज यस वन ऑफ द कंसेप्ट. अगेन वी स्टडीड इन द कल्चरल पार्ट दैट हाउ पर्सन बिहेव, हाउ पर्सन थिंक्स, हाउ पर्सन स्पीक, हाउ पर्सन react on a different situation. This actually affect our or formulated from our culture, because culture से ही हमारी overall understandings और हमारे attitudes बनते हैं और उसी से overall personalities निकल कर आती हैं. So in that terms, yes, if we were talking about the HR concept, so in that terms HR concept से related अगर बात की जा रही है, so human beings के साथ dealing होती है. So in that terms we can't miss the culture part when we are talking about human. अगर हम humans की बात कर रहे हैं तो उनके cultures, उनके attitude, उनकी learnings, उनकी perceptions, उनकी languages, हम इन सबको ignore नहीं कर सकते. So being in a managers, it is required to understand those concepts. So now yes, the first factor which shows how culture affect the managerial approach, first is centralized versus decentralized decisions making. Yes, in some societies top management make all important organization decisions, when in the other society the decisions are diffused throughout the enterprise and middlemen and lower level managers actively participate in and making the key decisions. Cultural इफेक्ट करता है हमारे मैनेजरियल डिसीजंस को इन टर्म्स ऑफ कि किस तरीके की डिसीजन मेकिंग कॉन्सेप्ट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में है. अगर जिस भी कल्चर से या जिस भी सोसाइटी से एक हमारी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन बिलोंग करती है, तो इन दैट केस एटीट्यूड टॉप मैनेजमेंट का भी वहाँ से बनता है. सो जिस तरीके से टॉप मैनेजमेंट परफॉर्म करेगा, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन वैसे परफॉर्म करेगी. इफ टॉप मैनेजमेंट बिलीव इन द डिसेंट्रलाइज पार्ट की ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा की फैक्टर, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा डिसीजन एरियाज जो हैं वो लोअर अथॉरिटीज़ और मिडिल अथॉरिटीज़ ले. एट द सेम टाइम बहुत सारी ऐसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस भी होती हैं जिसके अंदर सिर्फ हायर अथॉरिटीज़ ही परफॉर्म करती है. तो दिस इज़ वन अगेन द कल्चरल डिफरेंस. जिस सोसाइटी से एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन बिलोंग कर रही है उसी तरीके से वो परफॉर्म कर रही है. देन सेफ्टी वर्सेस रिस्क. येस, दिस इज वन ऑफ द फैक्टर, or we can say that one of the factor in the culture how it's affect the managerial approach. First is in the some societies organization decision maker are risk awaker and have a greatly difficulty with the condition of uncertainty. In other words, risk are taking is encouraged and decision making under the uncertainty is common. So in that terms yes, कहीं तो ऐसी organizations होती हैं जहाँ पर risk को या टॉप मैनेजर्स जो होते हैं वो रिस्क टेकर्स होते हैं, वेयर एज बहुत सारी ऐसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस होते हैं वेयर दे don't like to take any kind of risk part. Then how culture affect the managerial approach in that third point is the individual versus group reward. In that term yes, there are the reward factors also. बहुत सी ऐसी organizations होते हैं they will like to give the bonuses, the commissions, the incentives, but other organizations they would not react on, or they sometimes they fond of that kind of thing ki why to provide the bonus, why to provide the individuals incentives and also. In that terms yes, these are again the cultural factor of that particular society कि जो एक individual और group rewards में differences arise होते हैं. Informal procedures versus formal procedure. That means in some societies much is accomplished through the informal decisions. That means in other the formal procedures are set forth for the followed rigidly. That means कहीं तो ऐसी organizations होती हैं जहाँ पर बहुत adopt किया जाता है formal organization को, और कहीं होता है बहुत ज़्यादा informal environment के साथ ही behave किया जाता है. High organization loyalties versus low organization loyalties. Yes, कहीं ऐसी societies होती हैं they were more people were identified very strongly with their organization and employers. They know that what kind of an organization is. Informational flow इतना ज़्यादा होता है सोसाइटी में कि people know about कि किस तरीके की organization है, loyal करने trustworthy organization है कि नहीं है. So in other the people identify with their occupational group such as engineers and mechanics. So that is again makes the difference. Then cooperation versus competition, that leads towards that Some societies encourage the cooperations between their people, and what the other encourage the competition between their peoples. And that comes, there were certain societies जो कॉपरेशन को लीड करती है कि मिलकर काम करना है, एंड अदर सोसाइटीज वर देयर जो कंपटीशन में बिलीव करती हैं. सो दैट्स अनदर थिंग टू मेक द डिफरेंस. Then short term versus long term horizons, that means some cultures focus more heavily on the short term horizons such as शॉर्ट रेंज गोल्स हो गए प्रॉफिट और एफिशिएंसी के, जबकि कई ऐसी सोसाइटीज़ होती हैं जो लॉन्ग रेंज गोल्स में आ जाती है, जो लॉन्ग टर्म्स गोल्स में ज़्यादा बिलीव करती है. अगेन इट्स इफेक्टेड फ्रॉम द कल्चर ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर कंट्री. देन stability versus innovation, that probably lead towards the culture of the some country encourage the stability and resistance to the change. that means कि एक स्टेबिलिटी फैक्टर मेंटेन करने की कोशिश करते हैं, एक रेजिस्टेंस मेंटेन करने की कोशिश करते हैं. तो जबकि ऐसी भी कंट्रीज होती हैं जिसके अंदर दे पुट हाई वैल्यू ऑन द इनोवेशंस एंड चेंज. दैट मीन्स वो इनोवेशंस को इतना सपोर्ट करते हैं दैट द नीड कि किसी ना किसी तरीके की इनोवेशंस होती रहनी चाहिए. Now this is the model of a culture. that means this is basically showing that जो culture होता है वो हमारा 3 layers होता है. The first one is the implicit and basic assumptions that guide the people behavior. that is ये एक जो central part होता है, this is the basic assumptions of a people who guide them how to behave. then further हमारी society कुछ norms create करती है, कुछ values create करती है. after that getting that norms and values, एक एक्सपर्टिज एयर फैक्ट एंड प्रोडक्ट ऑफ सोसाइटी राइज होता है. दैट मीन्स दैट इज एक फुल फ्लेज एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के लिए क्रिएट होता है, एक वर्कर या फिर एक एम्प्लॉय क्रिएट होता है, एक ह्यूमन बीइंग क्रिएट होता है या एनवायरनमेंट क्रिएट होता है इन टर्म्स ऑफ द प्रोडक्ट ऑफ सोसाइटीज. दैट मीन्स द डेली मेड प्रोडक्ट ऑफ और द जिसका सबसे ज़्यादा सोसाइटी इन्फ्लुएंस होता है. सो दैट कम्स इन टू द मॉडल ऑफ कल्चर. Then yes, there are few questions which you have to do it yourself. First is explain how cultural factors affect the managerial approach. किस तरीके के cultural factors हैं जो managerial approach को affect करती है. So you have to explain कि जितने different scenarios होते हैं वो उसमें अगर perform करेंगे तो that affects the management process and part. And then finally is what is culture. You have to decide कि culture क्या होता है and define its characteristics also. So yes, today is all about for this session. We were winding up here. So thank you so much. Happy learning. We learn.